What's up, IVT family? Tonight, we are exploring the Week 5 Fantasy Football Waiver Wire to find you those hidden gems that could be yours for nothing more than a bag of chips. We have all this and so much more on the program tonight, so sit back, enjoy the show, and don't forget to show your support by subscribing to the channel. Let's jump in.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the fun, check his stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. And so I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is October 3rd, 2023. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast is back with you, closing the door on Week 4 as we begin a new chapter of the fantasy football and just the yearly season as well. I am Seth Woolcock. I am your host tonight. I am joined by a man who I am thinking once rocked Heelys back in his day because he always looks so damn cool. He's Eric Romoff, a.k.a. Tex, a.k.a. Summertime Eric. What's up, Eric?
Man, I'm going to show my age a little bit. Heelys were kind of lame when they first came out. So you best believe I was rocking some Heelys because I like just cruising down the hallway. They got banned at pretty much every school in my neighborhood growing up. But they've made a comeback, man. They kind of disappeared there for a minute. Now they seem to be hot again. And now, officially as of yesterday, we're on to Week 5. I have no idea how we're more than a month into the season. It's wild.
Dude, I can't believe we are here. And I will tell you what, Week 4 was just like I was captivated from Thursday night all the way to Monday Night Football. I thought it was a great weekend of football. I got to tell you this quick story before we get into it tonight. We are jam-packed on the program once again, but I was feeling the sweat last night, my friend. Down 40 to my brother in my Liga record. I had DK Metcalf and that sweet Seattle Seahawks defense and special teams. And so Katie goes to bed at about halftime. I'm still probably down, 20, 25 points at this point. It's not looking good. And all of a sudden, man, Daniel Jones, 1, 2, 3, 11 sacks, pick 6. I win by a couple points, man. And I haven't been on the side of that too many times in the last year or two. So that one felt really, really sweet here in Week 4.
Oh, man, I was on the exact opposite side of that variance. I had 3 different L's that I caught because I was facing the Seattle defense. One of them, I had an 18-point lead and DK Metcalf, and because we have bonuses, still managed to grasp defeat from the hands of victory. So the Seattle defense definitely kicked me squaw in the ass this week.
Well, I'm sorry my fortune could not be your fortune as well, Eric, but we are fortunate to be here tonight on the program. We are jam-packed. We have some Would You Rather Week 4 winners and losers. We're going to talk some October-related things as well from the forum, answering your questions here in the chat, as well as over on fantasyfootballadvice.com. And then in the scope, hidden gems of the Week 5 waiver wire. I'm excited to chat about you with that. Let's see. Who else do we have here? We got Albert in the chat, some more of our IBT family. Albert, we appreciate you and everyone else tuning in tonight. Always great to see so many familiar faces, new faces in the chat. Keeps us going, keeps us laughing along the way. And we are also joined by the master of controls and a Mariners fan in mourning currently, Kyle Scott, audio producer. Kyle, how are we doing back there in producer alley?
Well, producer Allie is doing fantastic, but out in Mariners land, it's not doing too well. But Seahawks land is doing hot. Tell you that much.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Seattle, baby. We're on the come up. Um, let's go ahead, guys. Let's go ahead and get into it because we're gonna bring Kyle in for Would You Rather. And I would just gotta say, Eric, like this is my favorite time of the year. I feel like we're finally like past that like eagerness and like some of the anxiety that comes with the beginning of the fantasy football season. We're settling into a routine a little bit. Fall is just starting to rip around here. We're starting to get a little bit of color. So, how do you feel? Are you a big fall guy? Are you big a week 4 to week 7 guy like I am?
Man, I love this part of the fantasy season for sure because like this is the point where I feel like I've got a really good handle on my teams, on the quality or lack thereof of the players on my roster, and this really is a point where I tend to start to hit a stride, right? Like I'm kind of a cold opener, right? Most of my fantasy leagues, actually specifically this year, all of my fantasy leagues, I'm either 1-3 or 2-2. I've got an 0-4 out there as well, right? But usually around this time of year is where I really start to get some momentum going. In terms of the season of fall, that's actually a false premise in the state of Texas. We have about 12 hours of fall in between blistering heat, and then it gets really cold for like 3 weeks. So I love the idea of fall, mainly because I'm deprived of that from where I live.
Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope Didi out in California gets a little bit of fall. What's up, Didi? Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Let's go ahead and go, guys. Let's talk a little bit more about this time of year, this time of the fantasy football season, and a game of Would You Rather.
Risky business or that fair state. Are you that hard on the rocks? We're chilling with a cold one. Even bold one or hold back. Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
We changed it up. Would you rather in the front of the show this week for a little bit of fun? Kyle, how you feeling? We're leading off with you tonight. You're not in the 8-9 slot tonight. You're leading off, hitting dingers.
Yeah, I'm getting on base tonight, baby. Would you rather start the show off with Would You Rather or end it with Would You Rather?
Hey.
There we go. There we go. What do we got on deck for tonight, my friend?
All right, we got a lot on deck. It's going to be a really fun episode of it today. We're going to have a lot of fun, so let's just jump into it. So the first question, would you rather roster Christian McCaffrey or Justin Jefferson rest of season? Little CMC or JJ?
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, Eric. I think I was actually the one person. I wasn't I didn't have any first overall picks this year, so I didn't have the opportunity to select Justin Jefferson over CMC. But I think there was a case out there that he could have been the number one player off the board. With that being said, we're a couple weeks into this right now. CMC averaging just over 30 points per game in PPR formats. Jay Jettis right in that 26 range. However, he's just been super consistent. No performance worse than 24 points, no better than 28.9. So where do you lean here? Because I think I know where I'm going.
Yeah, look, these two guys were the first players off the board at their respective position by consensus. So nobody is actually making this decision unless you're in, you're talking about a dynasty context. But for me, it's absolutely Justin Jefferson. If for nothing else, Christian McCaffrey has a bit of an injury history behind him. I don't know if anyone's aware of this. This is actually, one of the longest stretches of games that we've seen him go and stay healthy. Which,
sure.
Granted, you can make that argument for a lot of players. The thing that I'm puzzled by is we're 4 games in and they've already given him 97 touches. He's on pace for over 400 touches. I don't think that Christian McCaffrey's previously injured frame can hold up to that. Also, this zone running scheme has a history of really taking a toll on running backs. So, look, if they're going to continue to use him this way, it's going to be great while he's out there. But I don't think that he can sustain 17 weeks playing at this volume. So I'll go with what I think is the safer bet in Jay Jetta.
Yeah, it might be safer. You might be right, but I think CMC might be a little bit more fun. I think we're going to get some more explosion games, the 30 burgers, the 40 burgers. I think those are more in CMC's category this season. And I just think in general, like there's a bigger gap from Christian McCaffrey and every other running back this season than there is Justin Jefferson and every other receiver, in my opinion. Like I think Tyreek Hill is right there with them, and not too far away. A little. I mean, he's obviously older too, but Keenan Allen, I think he could be a top 5 wide receiver the rest of the season as well. And like I just think the gap between I'd say Christian to Bijan is still bigger than CMC to Tyreek, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? I'm hyper concerned about the way that they're utilizing him and how that plays out over the course of a full complement of games, right? Where,
Yeah.
I mean, to your point about the upside, there was about a month-long stretch down the end of the season last year where you were getting those ceiling games from Justin Jefferson, right? So, look, I mean, like you're going to split hairs when you're talking about the best players at each of their respective positions.
Yeah.
There are so many teams, including the San Francisco 49ers in real life football, who are going to have their hopes dashed if Christian McCaffrey, ultimately comes up lame because they're giving him so much work.
Okay. All right. Kyle, you got any CMC? You got any J-Jet on any of your teams?
Unfortunately, I don't. But I guess fortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to draft that high.
Okay. Yeah. I will say I'm actually in 2 leagues with you. I have CMC in the one. I have Justin Jefferson in the other. So maybe that's on me. Apologies. What else do we have on deck here, man?
All right. So would you guys rather roster a top 5 ranked quarterback or a top 5 ranked tight end? Eric, what are you thinking?
So I'm probably gonna use Seth's argument against him in this one. He was talking about wins or scoring above replacement when going with CMC, and that's how I would make this decision here, right? Like you talk about the top 5 guys that are rest of season for the quarterback side, guys like Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar, right? Their projected remaining fantasy points are a negligible amount relative to the 12th quarterback in rest of season rankings, right? So you're talking about guys that are going to have a median remaining score of about 270 points, whereas number 12 is at 225, right? Whereas you flip it over to the tight end side, you're talking about a 70-point difference, right? About 175 points across those top 5, whereas barely cracking 100 down at tight end 12, right? So tight end is and will continue to be a super top heavy position, and so I'll take the premium scoring and go with the tight end side here.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. And like, I know we haven't seen the ceiling for Travis Kelce, but it is coming. He's averaging 14.8 points per game right now. That's behind only Mark Andrews. Next up on the schedule for them, though, guys, Minnesota, Denver, the Chargers, Denver, Miami. Like, holy fuck. This is going to get insane. You are going to get what you drafted Travis Kelce to be here very soon. And I think it's just like you said, man, like Travis Kelce to anyone outside the top 5 at tight end, even to anyone else inside the top 5 the tight end is a huge difference. Like between like Anthony Richardson, to me, he's not ranked here on Fantasy Pros top 5 rest of season, but dude is averaging almost 23 points per game, missed 3/4 of one game as well. Like I will take him, please and thank you, and be very, very happy about it.
Yeah, that's just it, right? Like the quarterback position is so commoditized. So someone we talked about on the Friday show, Joe Burrow outside of that top 5, right?
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Tua technically is outside of that, right? So like there you can get sort of comparable production, not with guys that aren't in that top 5 at quarterback and tight end. I mean, after you get past 3 or 4, arguably, it's just a complete wasteland.
I just want to say too, like, thank you, Anthony Richardson, for bringing me along for this ride. This has been so fun. That game, I was sweating a little bit at halftime, and that second half going into overtime, that was so much fun. That was one of the most fun I've had watching football in such a long time. This guy's electric. I'm happy about it. Kyle, you know what else I'm happy about as well? That it is fall. I think we have some fall themed questions in here. Let's get some of those.
Yeah, we do have some fall questions. Getting a little off the fantasy into a different type of fantasy, you could say. Which new Halloween themed movie or series would you rather stream? So we have three available. We have Totally Killer, when the infamous Sweet 16 killer returns 35 years after his first murder spree to claim another victim, 17-year-old Jamie accidentally travels back in time to 1987, determined to stop the killer
Okay.
before he can start.
Little time travel. Okay.
Dude,
Okay.
Can we just talk about how Kyle subtly did some victim blaming to Jamie in that read? 17-year-old Jamie, what are you up to, Jamie?
I saw a comment and I thought it was gonna be different.
Shout out Jamie, we love you.
Shout out Jamie. The second one we have is Pet Cemetery, the new one. So it's based on a Stephen King novel, of course. Dr. Lewis Creed and his wife Rachel relocate from Boston to rural Maine, of course, with their two young children.
Always
the couple
Maine.
soon discover a mysterious burial ground hidden deep in the woods near their new home. And finally, Goosebumps. A teenager teams up with the daughter of young adult horror author R.L. Stine after the writer's imaginary demons are set free on the town of Madison, Delaware.
Okay.
Whoa.
Also based on books.
Yes. I will say right now, the answer for me is clear. If you guys haven't seen the new promo for this Goosebumps, Justin Long is in it. He's kind of one of the adults in it. Justin and Kyle's laughing. This is like the thing. Justin Long gets no fucking respect. Justin Long is a damn good actor. I think I've talked about this on this very show before, so I apologize. But Accepted, she's just not that into you. Dodgeball, New Girl, like this dude does everything. So give me the Goosebumps. It's not really close for me. Disney and Hulu, like multiple networks you can watch this on, and like you can also watch it with kids, but they might have nightmares, but still lit. So I'm Goosebumps. Eric, yourself?
Man, I've got a similar argument. I'll kind of go in the inverse order of yours. I am the parent to two very creepy kids. They love all the spookies. They love all the cryptids.
Nice.
Like we're listening to scary podcasts all the time. They're always like pushing the line on like scary movies that are clearly inappropriate for a 5-year-old, but we just send it anyways, right?
Hell
so
yeah.
like them being able to watch this, big points in my book. The cast is stellar, Justin Long, but also there were some dark days in the Goosebumps franchise, and really the only beacon of light and hope therein was Jack Black being associated with these reboot movies. He is in this new movie, so points there. And also, like you mentioned off the top, Kyle, this was a fantastic book series back in the day.
Yes.
These were books that raised me, right? Return of the Mummy, Welcome to Dead House. Like there was a point where like the school book fair would burn through my elementary school, and these things were flying off the shelf, right? So like I definitely read plenty of Goosebumps, and for it to go full circle and be something I can enjoy with my kiddos now, just too good to pass up.
Oh yeah, Eric's out there slinging. Eric's out there buying out all the Goosebump books and
Dude,
double charging them kids.
That Goosebumps aftermarket, woo! Come on,
Kyle, you are a movie savant. What is your take on this?
So I mean, unlike you guys, unlike a lot of people, I didn't really read Goosebumps as a kid. I
Okay.
was a little bit of a baby. But you know what? I'll tell you what I did do a lot as a kid. Listen to Pet Cemetery by the Ramones, baby.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Not a big. You read Stephen King at all?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. You got the Ramones though. What other questions we have here tonight, Kyle?
All right. So back to fantasy. Would you rather have Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, or Rhamondre Stevenson rest the season?
Wow. This is a real look yourself in the fucking mirror right now, and I don't know how I feel about it. Like Achane is almost averaging 27 points per game. That is absurd. But he's always going to split touches. Like, that's the thing. He's always going to be splitting touches in some shape or form. Had just 11 this last week, and I'm worried that floor does bottom out for Achane at some point. Jets, Dolphins, Baltimore to end the season schedule for him. Meanwhile, Zach Moss is averaging 22 carries per game in this Colts offense. I think behind that line with Anthony Richardson, Shane Steichen's scheme, I think he could be a league winner if he gets back. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Vegas to end the season. That's a pretty decent schedule. I think I'm going JT here. Eric, if you want to kind of go over your take on this and also how you're just feeling about JT in general and what listeners can maybe do with some of the news we have floating around.
Yeah, so of the three, here I am being like weird conservative guy again. I would probably go with Rhamondre Stevenson. He's the easiest to project out of the three, right? Like the backfield and the role that we drafted him to have is still very much so his, right? Like last year when he was running back 10 on points per game, he got 210 rush attempts. He hauled in a very nice 69 receptions. This year, he is on pace for more volume in both of those categories, right? So like the thing that we drafted him for was that volume, was that steady contribution, and he's getting it. He's just not finding the end zone yet. And because of that, you can get him at a value. He's definitely a buy low target for me, but also that volume is just so much easier to project week over week. Achane, excuse me. We actually talked about this on Friday's show and completely butchered it. He has come out and asked to be rather clarified the pronunciation as Achane. Look, he's going to get like 10 to 12, maybe 13 touches a week. And it's going to be one of those like pull your hair out guessing game kind of situations. Like you're going to fire him up. He'll get his 12 touches. He doesn't break any of them. And he gets you like a 5 spot. And then you're going to bench him because you're disgruntled. He's going to get his same 12 touches. And he's going to go for 150 and 2 scores. Right. So like, removing myself from those like hard decisions and guessing games is something that I try to do because I always seem to guess wrong. And then for Jonathan Taylor to your point about kind of the rest of season outlook. I mean, I've been an advocate that the best way for any of these running backs to improve their earning power in the immediate term is to take the field and perform well. Right. The fact that he ended up on PUP was kind of a head scratcher to me, right? Like he was saying that he was healthy and they just put him on the shelf for those 4 weeks. So, you're getting kind of lukewarm reports in terms of how Jonathan Taylor's feeling. You're getting red hot reports in terms of how excited the Colts are to have him back. Right. So like, if he's going to be out there, like he's absolutely neck and neck with Rhamondre Stevenson. He was a much more scoring dependent running back in terms of his projection for this season. So, ceding any of that touchdown upside to Anthony Richardson is going to hurt him more than, Ezekiel Elliott taking a couple of goal line carries away from Stevenson, for example. So, for me, it's Stevenson of the three, but, I think there's a pretty clear gap between Stevenson, JT, and then, more of a kind of weekly flex option in Achane.
You're just not a believer. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Not a believer in what? JT or Achane?
I think either. I think you're.
Oh, this is not true. I'm actively wiping the floor with everyone in the IBT Guillotine League with Devon Achane right now.
Yeah,
because it's best ball, and I don't have to guess when he's going to go off.
He actually your week one points. He was actually your week one sleeper as well, which you're just 2 weeks off, but the idea was right there. And for me, I'm scared about Rhamondre. I think is the biggest thing here, Eric. 6 points this week, 7.2 the week before. I know game strip hasn't necessarily been in their favor, at least here in week 4, week 3, they're kind of beating down on the Jets. I don't know, man. I'm scared a little bit. I just haven't seen the efficiency. I don't like this offensive line. I don't like this offense in general. So, like, I'm trying to wait for one big game for Rhamondre and get the hell out personally. So Yeah, I think we're a little bit on different corners there. Looks like Dee Dee said she would go Stevenson. You guys
Dee
let
Dee
us know in the chat as well. Whoever else is listening tonight, let us know who you would rather have rest of season. I have this question here from Anton. We'll get to this in just a couple minutes in our next segment. All about answering your guys' questions and that. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put those in there. We'll get to those in just a little while. Kyle, what other questions do we have for Would You Rather tonight, though?
All right. So our next question is a doozy. Would you rather have to take a fireball shot at your college homecoming
Ooh.
or have to host a Halloween party for X amount of hours for every transaction you make in your league of record?
So basically, the question here is for every transaction you make, you either have to take that amount of shots at your college homecoming or have a Halloween party for that amount of hours. Man, Kyle, let's hear from you first, man. Where would you go on this?
Hosting is a bit of a pain in the ass.
It is.
I mean, or like I oh gosh. No, yeah, I'll do fireball. After
Yeah.
the first one, it's just, it
At
all
least
goes down.
at least like at the college homecoming, I'm blacking out on someone else's property and not my
Yeah.
own. So like I'm all right with that. I'm all right with blacking out at other people's properties. I just don't want a bunch of people blacking out on mine. So I'm going to take the old man approach here, and I'm going to black out at homecoming here. Eric, yourself, how do you feel about it? Because I'm heavy on the transactions in the league of record. Like it's every single day. I feel like for me.
Yeah, I mean this question is posed as though these aren't things that I'm already doing anyways, right? So in real life, I don't have to make this decision, but in the confine of would you rather, it's absolutely the fireball shot, right? Like, you get one or two of those in, and you're basically just in blackout territory where it doesn't matter if you're taking
Good point.
4 or 10,
Good
right?
point.
Like you're downhill, momentum's going to carry you. So, and it's also probably way more fun to go to your college homecoming with a couple of fireballs on deck, right? So I'll go with the shot side.
Okay. Yeah, man. I remember the days like you just start running that fireball, and like after the first two, it starts tasting good, and you're
Right?
in it. You're locked in. So yeah, hell yeah. I think that was a bad question on my end. I think that was a bad one I posed there. Except Dee Dee. Dee Dee loves Halloween party hosts. But Dee Dee, you're a great cook and obviously probably a great host as well. So I think that would be it. Halloween parties are just like I feel like they're a lot. You know what I mean? Like I love Halloween. I just don't know if I love Halloween parties. Kyle, how do you feel about that? I know you and I definitely attended our fair share back in the day.
I feel like a Halloween party especially requires like a bit of planning and like everyone has to play along cuz
Yeah.
like everyone also needs to dress up.
That's the whole thing.
You're kind
Yeah.
of relying on people to dress up cuz if no one dresses up your party sucks, you know? But and then you also have to prepare all your party stuff. So
Yeah.
you're relying more on other people to do something people might not do.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to a Halloween party this year at one of Katie's friends and trying to figure out what to be. I'm thinking Power Ranger. I'm thinking Power Rangers. I don't know.
Nice.
I like the Power Rangers. I've done like every superhero one in the book, so I don't know what else to do. Guys, let me know in the chat. Well, what should Katie and I dress up as, like a couple's costume idea? Let us know. Eric, do you have any good ideas for us other than Power Rangers?
And not now that you've asked the question and I've just completely vacated my brain of every costume idea in the world. But what I will say, like on the macro level, is don't worry about this being a cool costume. Like the more you can poke fun at yourself with your couple's costume, the better, right? So like I'm sure the chat's going to come through and give us some absolutely fire ideas. If any of them make you feel ridiculous, that's probably the one you should go with, because the people are just going to go nuts when you show up dressed up as whatever, Bob Ross or a bottle of ketchup and mustard or whatever it is.
There we go. There we go. Maybe Harry Potter and Hermione. That would be a good one too. I think actually. I think that would be
Okay.
a good one. We got Dee here saying sports and parties plus a good host. That's epic in my eyes. I love to cater to others. I will say, yeah. I back in college, Kyle. Like I loved hosting everyone for whatever was
Yeah.
happening. It was always happening at our house, and I think maybe I just got burned out a little bit of it, to be honest. Like there are certain things that I like. I like having parties for, and then like other things like Super Bowl, miss me on that bullshit. I don't like maybe one or two close friends and my girlfriend and my cat. I don't want people yapping my ear off. I'm not trying to party. I'm trying to watch the game. That's maybe that's a little Grinch of me. I apologize. Kyle, your thoughts. Your thoughts on the costumes, and next question as well after that.
I you're putting me on the spot on costumes. I'll text you at some point with some
Okay,
ideas, I'm
I
sure.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. You got that. You got that big brain over there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always something cooking. Uh, so, we're going to go back to some fantasy questions now.
Please.
Would you rather hold Jaxon Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnston through the week 5 bye? What are we thinking? I'm hoping JSN because I have JSN.
Eric, how do you feel about it, man? These are pretty like polarizing prospects at this point. I mean, who would have thought a couple weeks in it's Michael Wilson, it's Tank Dell, it's Puka Nacua, the 3rd and 4th rounders, day 2 wide receivers stand up, and not the round 1 guys really.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to project out these day 2 guys, certainly to this level of production. The thing that's tricky about this question in particular is these were 2 of the round 1 guys that I was most concerned about from a redraft perspective. JSN, he's in this Seattle system that largely focuses on 2 wide receivers, right? They run a ton of 2 wide receiver sets. Even when they have him out there and they have a 3rd guy out there, the offense absolutely goes through Metcalf and then Lockett, and everyone else is just kind of getting scraps, right? So, like, his opportunity is fairly minimized. Quentin Johnston now has more opportunity with the injury to Mike Williams, but there's this little thing about his ability to play NFL receiver. He can't really catch, which you kind of have to be able to do, right? So, like, he'll be on the field more. I think logically, just because the opportunity is going to be more immediately present, I'll go with Quentin Johnston and just hope that, he gets the stick 'em working on his gloves, whatever it might be. But I mean, he is the like prototypical body catcher, and that just doesn't work in the NFL. So hopefully he gets it together because he's going to be seeing the field a lot more than he was through the first 3 weeks. Gotcha.
Seth, you're muted.
I feel like I have to go with JSN here, boys. I feel like I have to. I mean, this is just the more talented wide receiver. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I remember the guy who put up 300 yards in the Rose Bowl, was better than Garrett Wilson at times, better than Chris Olave at times. And Cincy, Arizona, right after the bye. I think the schedule's not that bad. And then Dallas and Kansas City for Johnston, which I don't like as much. So, man, I get that like your head is saying Johnston, but I think my heart is telling me JSN. I can't give up. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, he like you said, he's categorically the more talented receiver, right? Maybe the argument that would kind of walk me back a little bit more is hopefully neither of these guys are guys that you're depending on week in and week out, right? They are literally holds on your bench. And so if you're talking about who has the most upside if they get the opportunity, is clearly JSN. It's just that opportunity is more readily apparent for Quentin Johnston now.
All right. Kyle, let's close it out here, man. Last question before we get into From the Forum and answer everyone's questions.
All right, this last one is fun. So, would you rather drink 15 pumpkin spice lattes or eat 75 apples in one sitting as a fantasy football punishment? Now, I will preface this. I asked a good friend of the show, IBT legend Elliot Hicks, before, and he said, I think either one would kill you. So Choose wisely.
Oh, I don't think you're gonna die. I mean, I think either way, you're gonna have the runs for about a week. Pick your poison. But boys, call me Johnny fucking Appleseed, because I'm trying to go with the 75 apples. I'm not a coffee guy. I don't think putting pumpkin spice in it would make it any better for me. And apples are fresh. Apples are good, and I think you could also maybe use them in some different ways if that makes sense. Maybe make a couple of desserts out of them, and I think you could do some stuff with them. So yeah, I'm going apples. Lock it in.
Man, so I think the determining factor is what we are defining as one sitting, right? Because if it's in fact one sitting, you're not making a pie or a tart or a croissant out of your apples, my guy. Like you gotta sit here and just go raw into these apples. And
I don't want to raw dog the apples.
Even with that being the case, it's still the apples, right? Like I don't care what Elliot said. I categorically believe that your likelihood of dying is much higher if you take 15 PSLs to the dome than if you eat 75 apples that fell off of a tree, right? And look, I might make some enemies here in Twitterland and on YouTube world. You can just miss me on pumpkin spice in general. Like pumpkin spice is not my bag. Even before, like it was pumpkin spice everything back when it was just the latte. Not for me. I'm not here for anything pumpkin spice. Wholly out, banned, all of it. Do not put that pumpkin spice in my face.
I like the smell of pumpkin spice, and I like pumpkin things. I just necessarily don't like pumpkin spice, if that makes sense. Like I like pumpkin things. I like pumpkin pie.
You like the idea of pumpkin spice. You just don't want to consume it.
Pumpkin beers I can get behind a little bit as well. A couple of them, like one or two. I can do one or two.
Categorically wrong.
Kyle, where do you stand on this? Are you taking 15 PSLs to the dome, as Eric beautifully said?
So it boils down to basically how big are these apples and how big are these PSL?
Normal size each, 16 ounce PSL.
16 ounce?
Replacement level PSLs.
Isn't that like if you were to get a PSL somewhere? What is it? 16 ounces, I imagine.
Is it
it's
the
probably
smallest you can get at Starbucks?
That's like a medium.
That's like standard. Yeah, it's a medium.
Kid size?
Yeah, no, you're doing
Can I get
15.
decaf?
No.
Oh, jeez. Well then,
okay.
you're dying.
Okay. Let's decaf. You can go decaf. Yeah.
All right. Then that's probably a little easier. 75 apples is pardon my French, that's a fuck ton of apples. But
technically speaking,
and you can't. And I'm assuming you have to eat them all. You can't like juice them, right? You can't. Do you have to Can you not peel them either? Do you have to eat all the skin too?
Oh yeah.
Like
I would imagine, yeah.
75 apples is just an annoying amount of apples.
I
Like,
mean,
if you start early enough, 15 lattes isn't that bad.
Dude, I think it would take me longer to drink the lattes. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I'd throw up after, even if I was someone who liked lattes. I don't think anyone can drink that much. Like there's dairy in that. I don't think you can. I think you have a better chance of eating 75 apples because at least it's God shit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about lattes, right? Like that is predominantly whole milk, right? So you're basically
it's like
you're saying, can you have like 15 milkshakes in one sitting, right? Like,
then it's a lot easier.
Your guts are going to be in trouble with this choice.
I would love to know if we know any like competitive eaters between a couple of us. We could actually try this out. Call up Joey Chestnut and the boys and see like which one is physically easier. I probably the lattes for them because they could just pound them and it wouldn't be anything.
Dude, the amount of water they consume when they're like dunking their hot dogs is way more than 15 PSLs worth of fluid. So they would definitely take the lattes.
I love it, Kyle. I appreciate you hosting. Oh, what do you got?
I have a
breaking news.
Some development. 15 apples is the max apples you should eat.
15
in life,
15
or in one sitting.
If you have more than 2 apples a day, it can lead to some serious digestive troubles.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna shit your brains out. That's for sure.
Dude, they need to update that adage, right? Instead of an apple a day keeps the doctor away, it's like one apple and no more than one apple a day will keep the doctor away.
Yeah, seriously.
We got
Sheesh.
we got Dee Dee saying she would try the 75 apples. I'm with you, Dee Dee. Kyle, appreciate you hosting this game. Would you rather? Let's answer some questions for the good people though out there in our next segment from the forum. Miss me on the PSLs, baby. Miss me on that. Let's get some from the forum.
If you're up, start thinking about what to do. Here at In Between, we got advice for you. Back and forth all day, trying to pick the play. Let's hear what them boys here had to say.
Presented by the Fantasy Football Advice Network.
Yeah, guys, make sure you're checking out the Fantasy Football Advice Network at fantasyfootballadvice.com. You can use our promo code IBT, get yourself 25% off, and honestly, a month subscription over there to this new platform that is combining a lot of different apps like Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And for that, you can get it for less than a price of a pumpkin spice latte a month. So use our promo code, get invested over there, because this is really where creators, just avid fantasy football fans, can help support each other. So check it out over there. That's the Fantasy Football
Seth, I think we might have lost you there, my guy. You on mute?
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. My apologies. We're gonna get to the first question of the night here. Would y'all trade Dallas Goedert for Sam Laporta straight up?
I don't think that I would. Look, Sam Laporta has gotten off to a fantastic start by not even rookie tight end standards, just tight end standards. Even doubly so when you consider the fact that he is a rookie. This is a pretty close comp for me in terms of rest of season. The thing that really pushes it over the edge is twofold. One, I think that this Philadelphia offense is going to do a bit more scoring than the Detroit one will. So the touchdown upside is incrementally higher with Dallas Goedert. But also, as of this week, or potentially this week at least, you have the return of Jameson Williams. You have another mouth to feed in that passing game for the Lions. And I do think that will chip away a bit at Sam Laporta's volume. So I'll go with the Goddard side by a hair.
Okay. Yeah, man, it's getting tougher with Goddard, especially this is a new offensive coordinator, and I think that gets the nerves even a little bit more going. Was the tight end usage a Shane Steichen thing, especially what we've seen out of Granson and Ogletree and the boys over there as well. So, yeah, it's been crazy, but I think you have to hold on here. I don't think I'm making the move for Laporta right now. But it's getting close. I'd say it's neck and neck. If you like Laporta a little more, if you're a Lions fan, maybe go for it. But I think you're selling very, very low on Dallas Goedert.
I would agree.
All right. Next question here. Smokey the Cat. What's up, guys? Traded Jalen Warren and Elijah Mitchell and Joshua Palmer for Breece Hall, Charbonnet, and Najee Harris. Ooh, okay. We got to break this one down a little bit at a time here, Eric. I feel like I want Warren over Najee at this point. Is that crazy to say?
No, that's defendable.
He's getting the receptions. He has the higher floor. Najee's looked good the last couple of weeks, but I don't know how long that stays around. Elijah Mitchell for Charbonnet, that's fine. I think you are getting the better end of it here. You're getting Breece Hall, who I think is the best player in this, so I'm cool with it. Your thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, that's how I would land on this too. Breece is the player that I would want the most in this transaction, unless I was a CMC manager. Then Mitchell would obviously have a bit more of a premium. Even still, right? Like Breece is going to be the best player out of these six. And a lot of them are kind of either spare parts or speculative, but you're not bottoming out your depth to do it, right? You're you're getting some, good replacement level guys relative to the ones that you're sending out the door, right? So I would go with the Brees side here pretty comfortably.
Yeah, man, I do love Jalen Warren. He's so fun to watch compared to Najee Harris anymore. It's crazy. But let's get to the main topic of the night here. It is Kyren Williams, and what is he worth in a dynasty league is what our friend Texas Trojan 2004 over at the Fantasy Football Advice Network wants to know. And man, Eric, I think Kyren Williams, when you look at what he's done this season, he is a potential league winner with where you got him in drafts or you picked him up after week 1. How do you value him dynasty wise though? Because we've seen it with these day 3 running backs, man. Like, can we forget about guys like James Robinson, Tyler Algier, Myles Gaskin, who have had big seasons and then they get, put to the side when someone with higher draft capital gets brought in? So is there staying power here for Kyren Williams beyond 2023? I know often we're pretty much a redraft show, so we pretty much talk mostly redraft, but from a dynasty lens here, what is the staying power and what is the value if you wanted to sell?
Yeah, I think the staying power is pretty limited, right? Even with Kyren doing everything that the Rams could ask of him and more in the few games we've seen this season, they're still rumored to be making phone calls about Jonathan Taylor, right? So there's not exactly that huge vote of confidence from his current front office and coaching staff. And then you have all of the historical precedent that you mentioned before, right? Like these low draft capital players very rarely get a lot of run, right? So I think functionally speaking, the likelihood that this is going to be backfield and we're going to see a pretty comparable workload that we've seen so far for the duration of the year, right? Maybe that carries forward into next year, but I'm really looking at him with, kind of a 1.5 to 2 year window or perspectives. And so because of that, my trade value on him would be relatively low. I'd probably be looking somewhere in like the kind of late second, early third kind of range. But I do think that you can probably sell him for more than that, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised, especially now that we're into kind of the second trimester of the season. If there are some teams that think they have a win now opportunity, Kyren Williams is someone that you might be able to move out the door for a pretty hefty price, like maybe a late first, early second, maybe a prospective piece or two. So it's one of those things where I think the market is a bit hotter on him than I am.
Yeah, and I think you put it in great perspective. I think that's exactly what you could get for him. Maybe an early second rounder, maybe a late first rounder. You might have to give up maybe another ancillary piece with him to get that first rounder, but I think it's definitely possible. And I just worry that we know who Kyren Williams is. He's never impressed me that much on tape. He looked pretty good here this past week, but a lot of his value is still coming from those touchdowns. And I think those are going to go away eventually just because Matthew Stafford has to have positive TD regression here. He has hit 300 yards 3 times this season through the air, only has 3 touchdowns. Kupp is coming back. Matthew Stafford will score more touchdowns, and it's not going to be a bunch of Kyren Williams walk-ins all the time. And I just can't get over what he did at the combine and what his scores are, Eric. 10 percentile speed score, 21st percentile burst score, 40-yard dash of 4.645. I just don't think he's a great running back. And I think this is where you sell. You get off if you don't need him. If you have other pieces at that position, I'm fine with moving him for a late first, early second.
Yeah, I mean, look, based on, what you spent to acquire him, you probably are not relying on him unless you suffered, some catastrophic injuries ahead of him on your depth chart, right? So if that's the case, definitely look to move on from him. And if nothing else, he is this year's poster child of, I mean, arguably more important than anything in terms of fantasy is volume and opportunity, right? This is the definition of a spare kind of player by really every measurable statistic, but he's getting all of the work. And like you mentioned earlier, when they get in close, they're running the ball a lot, right? So he's going to have value for as long as that's the case. And I think that is at minimum the duration of this year, maybe in the next.
All right, badass. Let's go ahead. Let's round out the show with a little bit of in the scope and check out the waiver wire and some of these deeper targets as well.
I have the targets in my sights.
Requesting permission to engage.
In the scope.
All right, in the scope. And we're going to start this off by talking about some of these mainstream options that we've been talking for a couple weeks now. And we basically create a list of waiver wire targets each and every week. And as they graduate, as they get above 50%, we take them off this list. Or if they're just no longer relevant players, we remove them as well. So we're constantly updating, tweaking this list. Let's start at the quarterback position. CJ Stroud, still only 30.7% rostered. If you have not picked him up yet, if he's available before, after waivers, go in, get you some CJ Stroud. But let's go to the RB position where I think a lot of the topics are this week, Eric. Jaleel McLaughlin. Can't even say his name. I apologize. Jaleel McLaughlin, running back for the Broncos, undrafted free agent, rostered in just about a half a percent of leagues. Youngtown State guy, not too far from here in Pennsylvania, but has a great day here after Javonte Williams goes down with a hip pointer. 7 for 72, 3 for 31 in the air, 1 touchdown. Scored earlier this year as well. In addition to this day, how do you feel about it? Sean Payton, he loves these explosive backs. Are you investing fab? And if so, how much money?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's absolutely worth an ad because, like we just detailed with Kyren Williams, he's going to be on the field, and that has value. You know, he put up some pretty gaudy numbers in this first regular season appearance. He was also one of those kind of preseason darlings that ended up on some people's radar. The thing that would give me pause and at least prevent me from, you know, just completely unloading my fab budget on him is going back and watching that game very early on when he was in the rotation with Samaje Perine after Javonte went out. He actually blew his pass pro coverage on 2 different plays in relatively short order. And from that point going forward, when he was in the backfield, he was strictly running. And when he was catching a pass, he was lined up in the slot. He was lined up out wide, right? And, you know, pass protection is the thing that usually takes rookie running backs the longest to get a handle of. But immediately coming in and leaving Russell Wilson out to dry, one time to be sacked, one time forcing him to throw it away. Look, I think his workload is going to be limited to the point where, look, if him being on the field in the backfield becomes a tell that they're going to run the ball, he's not going to be in the backfield as much, right? Like it feels like it's a lazy comp because they played for the same team and they both had, you know, very low to no draft capital to acquire him. It kind of feels like the Phillip Lindsay story all over again. A guy that is shifty, he's good in space, he can get those explosive plays that everyone likes to see on the highlight reels. But if the defense has an advantage when he's on the field, like his snap share is going to be limited. So, you know, he goes from completely off the radar to being kind of a speculative piece, but I'm not looking to, you know, to go full barrel in acquiring McLaughlin at this point.
Would someone who's desperate for a running back, let's say your boy right here, would it be unwise of me to spend 20+% of my fab on Jaleel here?
I mean, that's probably the high end, right? You know, if you're completely bottomed out at the position, then I think you can justify it because you need bodies, right? But you know, if I have any other viable options, right? Even some of you know, some of the names that we might, you know, see on the waiver wire next to him, I would consider, you know, going kind of the Zag route and spend more miserly on, you know, a less popular option because, you know, Jaleel is going to be easily the most added player by this time tomorrow, right? So you're gonna have to spend up to get him.
Yep. Chuba Hubbard, he's the other hot name right now. Miles Sanders dealing with that groin injury once again. Tyjae Spears, we've been talking about him for a couple months now. Ezekiel Elliott, right under 50% rostered. I almost debated whether we should take Zeke off if he's going to be fantasy relevant or not. Matt Breida, same deal. He's been valiant in his time, was the leading receiver for the Giants here in week number 4. But we do have Saquon Barkley right around the corner as well. Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, 2 other guys who, like, they should be rostered, but Do they have a lot of upside? I don't know. Out of these other running backs here, I imagine Chuba is your favorite, Eric.
In the circumstance that you laid out, where you need to plug someone in as soon as this week, yeah, it would be Chuba Hubbard. In terms of my preferred option as a speculative ad, it's Tajay Spears. We haven't seen anybody compete with Derrick Henry in terms of opportunity share and number of snaps really at any point in recent memory, to the extent that Tajay Spears is. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he looks dynamic, right? So like he potentially has like some kind of fringy, more talented Jaylen Warren standalone value. But as we've talked about now for 5 straight weeks, every single week it seems like another running back is going down. So if that bell tolls for King Henry, now all of a sudden you got Tajay Spears for pennies on the dollar of what it would cost to acquire him if that injury in front of him were to happen. So I like having these high upside stashes on my bench, and Tajay Spears is not on the waiver wire in any league that I'm in because he is happily sitting on my roster.
Yeah, God forbid if something were to happen to Henry, like people are spending their entire fab on Spears. So just be aware that he should be rostered. I want to get to a couple questions here before we get to the mainstream wide receivers and then are in the scope candidates. Just traded Monty and Kupp for Eckler and Waddle. His wide receivers are Jay Jettas, Adams, and St. Brown. Is this good? I mean, this is an absolutely loaded team, man. Like, I would love to have this team. I would love to have a couple, 1 or 2 pieces of this team. Like, this is a great team. I don't think you can be mad about that. You also just got yourself potentially, if he's healthy, the running back 2 or 3, in my opinion, as well. So, Eric, I don't think there's any problem with this trade at all. Waddle, he's getting traded a lot this week. I'm seeing people are panicking, but I think it's just kind of a downward spell from him, and he'll get right.
I absolutely do. Waddle is one of the players that I am absolutely trying to buy low on. I have to assume that Snags listed this very impressive wide receiver core because his running back room is a little bit more sparse. So if that's the case, upgrading from Monty to Eckler, should cure that ail in short order, right? So you'll have to figure out what to do this week specifically without Eckler, being on the field for you. But after that, you're presumably patching up a pretty big hole in your roster. And clearly, I mean, you're to the gills with wide receiver talent. So, the slight downgrade from Kupp to Waddle is negligible.
All right, Blake 4491. What's up, Blake? Thanks for joining us tonight, man. Start Waddle or Ayuk, full PPR. It's got to be Jalen Waddle. They're playing the Giants here, man. Like, this is a ragtag group for the Giants. Adoree Jackson and the boys did not look very good. I felt like on Monday night or really any time this season, I think he'll exploit it. He'll get back to who he is. And then Brandon Ayuk against the Cowboys. I mean, it's a solid matchup. But those Cowboy games just haven't had the fantasy fireworks this season. And I'm worried we could be left wanting a little bit. And it seems like someone or at least 2 people every week are cut out of this San Francisco pie. Last week it was Debo and George Kittle. They were AWOL.
Yeah, I mean, that's been kind of the argument against San Francisco skill position players, heading into the season and through 5 weeks, right? And, based on how we've seen him perform, thus far on the season, obviously the floor between Waddle and Ayuk is fairly comparable. But in terms of which player can take limited opportunity and do more with it, it's Waddle by a long shot, right? So I would fire up Jalen Waddle here.
Okay. All right. AS back in the chat. What's up, AS? 12 team PPR, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 wide receivers, 2 running back, 2 flex. He is starting Lamar Jackson, Rhamondre, James Cook, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Swift, Mark Andrews. Is everyone's team better than mine? Oh my God, this is loaded too. Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Warren, Tutu Atwell, Michael Thomas, Algier. What would you trade for Austin Eckler? I mean, holy shit, dude. I mean, this is loaded. Eric, looking at anything off the bat, I mean, I'm always looking to sell DeAndre Swift high. I'll say that right off the bat. Like, I know Swift has been a great story. I still worry about the injury concerns. So I would maybe be looking to sell him. Maybe looking to sell Rhamondre. I'm kind of getting out on Rhamondre. So I would say, could you get it done with a Rhamondre and a Judy, or a Swift and a Judy? That would maybe be my approach. Or Michael Thomas instead of a Judy. Eric, your thoughts here for AS?
Yeah, look, I think Eckler is an upgrade to really all of your running backs, right? So, to varying degrees, I think it's fine to send any of them out the door plus something else to get Eckler. I'm with you of this lot. I would probably be the most inclined to move on from Swift. We've seen promising things from him over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Even though Gainwell has returned, he's still got a stranglehold on his role so far. But Philly has a long history of really shuffling the deck in terms of their running back usage, right? So I would aim to move Swift out the door. And then in terms of the kind of plus piece, Tutu Atwell's value is the highest that it's going to be. I don't know if that would get it done, but that would be probably where I would look to start. And I think people are more bullish on Christian Watson than they really should be. So he might have some solid trade value overall. Ultimately, if you're taking a piece off of your bench and pairing it with a starting running back to upgrade to Eckler, I think you're going to be in a good spot.
All right. AS saying, thanks a lot, guys. Everyone like and subscribe. And saying, yeah, Swift is always injured. Possibly Swift and Atwell. We appreciate you, AS. Thanks for spreading us, man. Thanks for the question as well. Let's get to the wide receivers here on the waiver wire, the mainstream. Romeo Doubs, we've been shouting his name for weeks and weeks, Eric. You believe he might be the wide receiver one for the Packers moving forward. I'll just say, I had a trade almost getting Romeo Doubs today lined up, and it slipped through the cracks. So I'm not gonna get him. The owner this morning, I'm getting texts this morning, last night. Hey, like let's make a deal. And I got him from JSN to Doubs, and I couldn't. He wouldn't do it. So a little bit of a bummer. Joshua Palmer, he's gonna be on his bye, but if you can roster someone through their bye, consider it. Jameson Williams. Old JMO, baby. He's back in the thick of it for the Detroit Lions, 16.3% rostered. And then, Eric, you wanted to chat about Michael Wilson. I know you almost wanted to use him as an in-the-scope candidate, but I think he will be added here as waivers run here Tuesday night. Your thoughts on Michael Wilson, and is there staying power here in Arizona, which they've been a delightful surprise. Let's be honest. They've been delightful. They've been fun to watch. Like Joshua Doubs is out there running around a little bit, slinging it down the field to Michael Wilson in Hollywood. I've had a lot of fun watching the Cardinals, which I did not think I would ever say that again this season.
Yeah, the Cardinals overall have been a pleasant surprise. Doubs, don't look now. I mean, he's obviously not going to be the most prolific passer in the league by a long shot, but a lot of his efficiency metrics have settled into a spot that is higher than most anyone reasonably would have projected, right? So I think this offense isn't as laughable as most people thought. And Michael Wilson was one of my favorite deep rookie stashes to hold on to throughout the course of the summer, because he is the one thing that is not like the others, right? Like if you look at this receiving core for Arizona, they're all like 5'8" and 5'9".
Yeah.
Michael Wilson comes in 6'1", 216 pounds. Like he's that big body. He's got that good size speed combo. In the early weeks of tape, you're seeing all the things that you want to see out of a rookie wide receiver, right? Someone that is, diverse in their route tree, reliable hands, but also he's doing the grunt work. Like he's going out there, he's blocking, right? Like everything that should predicate more playing time. He's checking all those boxes. Obviously, had the ceiling game this week with the 2 scores. So, everyone is going to rush out and add him. But, even though he might not see 2 touchdowns again at any point this season, I do think that he's going to see plenty of time on the field.
Okay. And then at the tight end position, Jake Ferguson. Guys, we've been fucking talking about Jake Ferguson all season long. I love Jake Ferguson, talented second-year tight end out of Wisconsin, but I'm tired of talking about him. Go pick him up. He should be over 50% rostered right now. He's tight end 8 on the season. He's probably going to be a top 10 tight end rest of season for me. I think Jake Ferguson holds a lot of value. This is how much I like Jake Ferguson, Eric. I am rostering him in a 12-man PPR league. Kind of deeper bench, maybe 7 or 8 bench slots. But I'm rostering him with Travis Kelce because I know someone like that's the guy I was trying to trade Romeo Doubs for today. He has value out there. Like he has real value. People out there who have Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, they don't want to play those guys. They would rather play Fergo. So pick up Ferguson. He's going to have value, whether that's for you or someone else.
I think for someone else is probably the better way to put this. Look, he's had a fantastic start to the season. There's no two ways about that. But all of this, he's getting it done where he's barely running 50% of routes, or rather, he has barely a 50%.
Yeah, old June makers out there.
Yeah, so like, look, if he's producing at this level and he's on the field about half the time, like, these touchdowns, these long plays, they're gonna regress. So, if there is a frustrated Kyle Pitts manager, spoiler alert, every Kyle Pitts manager is frustrated.
Yeah.
You can probably package up a Fergo and get a nice piece back, right? And I do think he'll be kind of on that fringe tight end 1 radar for the majority of the season, but the first 4 weeks is probably closer to his ceiling than we'll see for the duration.
Yeah, I wish they would just stop playing Schoonmaker and Hendershot as much. Hendershot was out here in week 4, so we did see more of Schoonmaker. But the guy has no hands. The guy has brick hands. And I know Jake Ferguson wasn't great in week 1, but he has had steady hands since then. So, yeah, I like Ferguson, but I am willing to sell him. Hey, Jack, if you're out there listening to the show tonight, man, let's get a deal done, buddy. Let's get a deal done. I could really use some Dobbs. Let's talk in the scope candidates. These are our gems. These are the ones you can get after waivers run most likely, or with a 0 fab, a 1 fab bid. So Eric, I want to throw it to you, man. Who is someone that you are going after your sneaky little stash here, or your sneaky little snipe here in week number 5?
Yeah, so I am a big proponent of playing time and opportunity dictating fantasy value. And one player that I think is not getting the attention that he deserves is WanDale Robinson. We saw him return in week 3 from a prolonged absence. That was his first time playing since the midpoint of last year and was kind of eased in. He ran around on 25% of dropbacks, saw a handful of targets, didn't exactly jump off the page, showed a little bit of shiftiness and burst when he had the ball in his hands, but wasn't exactly a huge outing. But then fast forward to last night, and while the Giants were getting absolutely boat raced, all of a sudden WanDale Robinson, I mean, he was running a route on 65% of passing plays, right? Like completely, took the governor off of him. He actually led all Giants in targets last night. He got a carry out of the backfield on the opening sequence. It wasn't, a gaudy performance in terms of his productivity, 5 receptions for 40 yards. But I do think we're going to see him, on the field incrementally more as we get into next week and weeks to come. And I do think that he's going to be, the preferred option among Giants wide receivers before long. And the good news is that, the headlines are about, these guys that, got into the end zone or just in general about the Giants being a laughing stock, right? So, no one's going to go out and break the bank to get WanDale Robinson. You can get him on the cheap and then, watch him develop on your bench and have a nice piece when you're navigating the buys.
Miami this week, like I think you could fire up WanDale Robinson actually as soon as this week. I think it's a great call, Eric. And we saw a pretty big shift actually in this Giants receiving core on Monday night as they're getting their asses kicked. It is no longer Isaiah Hodgins in the X. It's looked like that is Darius Slayton now going to be operating out of the X. And then we saw WanDale play a little bit of that flanker role, a little bit of in the slot as well. So I think he's going to go back and forth from those two positions. And then was Jalen Hyatt out there third as well. So like, we're not seeing Paris Campbell much. Hodgins, I don't know what he did to lose this job. I just don't think he was targeted as much. I still think he should be the X in this offense, but like WanDale Robinson, I think I said last week actually on the program that I'm done with Giants wide receivers outside of Darren Waller. I think I'm wrong. I think I was wrong. I like WanDale Robinson a lot. My apologies. That was bad advice last week.
I thought you were going to double back and say you were wrong. You were also out on Darren Waller.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of managers with a tight end situation, they're frustrated about Darren Waller, another one to go out and target.
Yes, 100%. 100%. All right. I want to go to my in the scope candidate, and it is a tight end. It's someone who, hey, you might have that Waller, you might have that Dallas Goedert, you might have some Kyle Stinky Pitts on your team right now, and you need a play. So I'm going to go with Logan Thomas, tight end, Washington Commanders, 7.8% rostered here. And listen, how Eric Bieniemy is running this offense is kind of like beyond me. I don't really get it. He's trying to do exactly what he did in Kansas City almost, but with a totally different personnel group. When he has all this talent on the outside and Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, he is targeting the tight end a shit ton. Right now, they are the 6th highest in target distribution to the position in the NFL. 25% of Washington targets are going to this position. And that makes Logan Thomas pretty valuable. 10th highest in target rate this season, averaging just about 4.7 targets per game. So right under like 5 targets is kind of what you want at least for a tight end. He's just under that, but I think that's going to continue to grow here, Eric, because he's been damn efficient. Quarterback rating of 102.5 per target, 11th best among tight ends. Like Sam Howell is doing well when targeting him. 0.38 fantasy points per target run. That's 9th. He's been efficient. I think he'll continue to get the targets here. I don't think Logan Thomas in his career at this point is the most special tight end, but you need touchdowns. You need 1 touchdown a week to be a top 12 tight end this season. I think Logan Thomas at least half the weeks could pull down a touchdown, and he's getting 5 targets almost. So hopefully that continues to grow. He's not a world beater, but I think he's serviceable.
Yeah, serviceable is a good way to put it, right? And the thing that I think is most promising for Logan Thomas, he missed week 3 after getting nearly decapitated by Jaxon in that game against the Broncos. And so, of course, John Bates and Cole Turner were, kind of jockeying for, first chair opportunity with Logan Thomas out. But when he returned in week 4, he immediately took that job back, right? 13 and 10% route participation for Bates and Cole Turner, respectively, last week, whereas Logan Thomas was up over 75%, right? So, any concern that, one of these, young or kind of unknown guys might have shown enough in week 3 to get more run has been quelled, right? Like when Logan Thomas is out there, he is going to be the primary option. And, while his ceiling is not going to be, anywhere near as high as, the guys towards the top of this position, if he's out there, if he's seeing targets, if he's getting red zone or even end zone looks, he's going to be on the cusp of that tight end 1 line.
4+ matchups in a row for him as well. Chicago, Atlanta, New York Giants, and Philadelphia here. I think that's a good run. I think you could start him as early as week number 5 here if you have a tight end on a bye, if you're still struggling at that position. Chicago, I love that matchup. I think I'm confident enough. Like I'm either going to throw a little coin down, maybe about a quarter of a unit here on an anytime touchdown, a little Thursday night action. Get it wet for the weekend. Just get my hand in there a little bit.
Hey, yo, dude, not mad at that at all. I specifically use Thursday Night Football to just lay all of my weird action down, right? Like something that I'm not going to do when I'm heading into a full slate and have had time to really think through things, right? It's just what would be fun to root for. That's where I'm going to lay my wager on Thursday.
Test the waters, baby. Test the waters. Well, Eric, I can't thank you enough for being here, man. And in addition to us over here at IBT, I know you're doing a lot in the industry in general. You're with Dr. Roto. You're doing your Pros with Joe's charity league as well, which I scored about 58 points this week. I don't know what happened. Bad week for the kid. I apologize. Took Khalil Herbert out of the lineup Sunday morning. Not great, not a great look, but you're doing a lot
Oh.
in the fantasy football space, but also the college basketball space. Tell us a little bit what do you have going on over there, because I know the season's afoot, man. It's coming quick.
Yeah, college basketball tips off in like 35 or 38 days.
35.
Green Screens Media is the outlet where I cover college basketball, and we haven't stopped. We've been talking to reporters, to coaches, to insiders all throughout the offseason. We've been talking transfer portal. We are now in the throes of our conference previews. We just did the AAC, the WCC, and the Mountain West over the last few days. This Thursday, we're going to do the Pac-12 or 2.5 or however many teams are in this conference. So we're definitely getting into the high majors, breaking down all of the incoming players, all of the conference realignment fallout, all of the new coaches, and how their systems are going to impact betting, DFS, futures markets, right? So anything that you might want to know about college basketball, we've got you covered at Green Screens Media. While you're here on YouTube, just throw that in the search on a new tab. You'll see last night's show. You'll see the stub for what we're doing coming up. You'll see some of our shorts. It's all there. It's Green Screens Media.
Hell yeah. Well, Eric, I appreciate that, man. I'm looking forward to the college basketball season and following you guys over there. Kyle, I appreciate you in the back end holding it down for us, and I appreciate everyone in the chat tonight. Thank you guys for making IBT such a special place over here. I'm seeing there's someone in the chat. They have some questions for us. Just put those in the comments, and we'll answer them here after the show. But everyone, have a great week number 5. Week number 5 already. Have a great week number 5, the beginning of it. Eric and I will be back on Friday to take your guys' questions and talk a little short things, sleepers of the week as well. So until then, guys, you know what to do. Keep it in between.